なんだって言うんだ。
When you think of a Godzilla movie, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Carnage, destruction, shitty humans, and a giant radioactive lizard. With a creature that's been around for so many decades, the formula has been pretty much established at this point. And the main pitch of most monster movies is almost always entirely about the action. But Godzilla Minus One is one of the rare gems that manages to strike a proper balance between substance and chaos, providing an incredible spectacle on a tiny budget while brilliantly blending in a powerful story about family, redemption, and self-sacrifice, managing to tug the heartstrings and keep you invested in the entire cast of characters. The 2014 Godzilla teased the same kind of potential and reignited my interest in the franchise after the embarrassment in '98. Spearheaded by the epic monologue of Bryan Cranston, fresh off the success of Breaking Bad, this movie looked like it could finally be the one.
You are not fooling anybody when you say that what happened was a natural disaster.
Because what's really happening is that you're hiding something out there. And it is gonna send us back to the Stone Age!
I signed up to watch Walt yell at a giant lizard, and instead they booped his ass out of the movie in the first 40 minutes and barely gave him any screen time, and left us with generic hero man, surgically removing any investment in the human element, and ultimately sending the franchise in the wrong direction. In 2016, Shin Godzilla made a great effort to take the story more seriously, but the overfocus on logistics and discussions of the creature ruined the pacing and provided very little for you to get invested in the people or the monster. And they also did this. But now, almost a decade later, I think they finally got it right. Instead of embarrassing the entire premise of the creature, exploring Godzilla's morality and making him the savior of the Earth, this film had the good sense to treat him like a true force of nature, and establish the threat he presents on humanity over the course of several years. And instead of Millie Bobby Brown's tears and the valiant efforts of Professor Dumbass, we get to explore reasonable scientific approaches to engaging the monster, creating the type of immersion that I no longer thought was possible for me in a Godzilla movie. So I'd like to take the time to give it the praise it deserves, and explain why this is the best monster movie I've seen in years. The film is centered around a fighter pilot by the name of Koichi Shikishima, a man plagued by the guilt of his past, trying to rebuild his life after returning from war and finding his home in ruin. He gets a second chance at life and love when he runs into Norichi, a young woman with an orphan girl, and the two of them work together to raise the child and make the best of this horrible situation. Koichi accepts the role as provider, even being willing to take on the dangerous job of mine removal in order to make enough money for the three of them. But overcome by his shame and survivor's guilt, he's still unable to embrace them as a family, as not only was he a kamikaze pilot who abandoned his mission, his inaction led to the death of his companions, and he doesn't feel worthy of the peaceful life that Norichi is trying to provide for him. It's a shame that he simply can't live with, and we see him start his path for redemption, joining forces with an alliance of soldiers, scientists, and regular civilians to create a plan to take down the beast. And it's this kind of attention to detail and focus on character that helped create tension in between action scenes, and actually made you care about the people involved rather than just waiting for Godzilla to return. And the family element that is usually the worst part of these movies somehow managed to be the heart of the film, and actually provided a thought-provoking dilemma instead of just a generic romance. The trauma of the previous years lays heavy on the entire cast of characters, while still managing to show the best of humanity, working together for the greater good. And as for the big man himself, I'd still have to say that the 2014 Godzilla, as shit as that movie was, probably had the best design overall. But in terms of the portrayal of the creature itself, I found this one way more interesting, with how much they were willing to show it off compared to the normal less is more approach that I would normally prefer. But this allowed us to see the variety of tactics that they used against it, slowly revealing more and more of its abilities. Where normally Godzilla is portrayed as virtually indestructible, we get to see him take significant damage for possibly the first time ever, adding a different dynamic to the fight scenes. Capped off with a fantastic sound design, creating jump scare worthy explosions and one of the biggest blasts of atomic breath ever put to screen. The film also did a great job of paying respect to the classics, incorporating the iconic Godzilla theme song and giving him the same posture he had in the old movies, while showing a clear inspiration for films like Jaws, a movie that also understood how important the human element was.
Chief Brody?
Yes?
You knew there was a shark out there. You knew it was dangerous. But you let people go swimming anyway.
Because no matter how big your budget is, and no matter how fantastic your creature looks, character is always king. And without doing the work to keep us invested, your story will eventually fall apart. Realistic portrayals of giant creatures is a difficult balance to pull off. But instead of lowering expectations to the point where the entire genre becomes comical, we need to highlight the ones that put in the work to make full use of their concept. Like Attack on Titan, exploring a world where humans are essentially an endangered species, and the last of humanity is forced to live behind a giant wall to protect them from the mysterious cannibalistic giants that roam beyond its borders, showing just how far humans are willing to go for answers and how hard we'll fight for our freedom. Or how about House of the Dragon, following the rise and fall of the Targaryens, a family with a unique ability to control dragons and use them to conquer an entire continent, showing the psychic links and varying degrees of control between owners, displaying the different personalities and designs of each dragon, and the impact that they have on the world around them. Instead of desperately relying on spectacle, both shows use every opportunity to earn their payoffs and create a much greater impact for their creatures, while still managing to have character be the heart of the story. This is much easier to pull off when you have entire seasons to work with, and that's part of the reason I'm so impressed with this movie. To be able to create such heartfelt moments in the shadow of a giant monster takes talent. But to do it in just 2 hours is something that we should all celebrate. Godzilla 2014 had a $160 million budget and one of the best actors in Hollywood, and even with all that, it was crap. This movie was made for peanuts, and I have no idea who any of these people are. Yet, it's still my movie of the year. So go check out Godzilla -1. Support a movie that actually wants to tell a story and entertain an audience, as this is desperately what we need more of.